Welcome to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Road to Growth listeners. Today I have Earl Foote. He is the founder and CEO of Nexus IT Consultants. Thank you, Earl, for being here today.
Hey, Vinny, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me as your guest.
The one-stop shop for IT, basically outsourcing. I mean, what's the easiest way to describe what you guys do if someone were to ask you, like, what's your elevator pitch?
Very good. Elevator pitch would be we take technology and cybersecurity off the plates of business leaders so they can focus on their business and growing that, right? Instead, and forget about the technology behind the scenes. And that, really for the business sector that we serve primarily is small to medium-sized businesses and small to medium-sized enterprises, right? The majority of those businesses don't have and don't want to have an internal IT department or have to worry about their technology. So for the most part, we take that off their plates. We outsource it for them. We provide either a fully augmented IT department and all of the products and services and solutions they need to do that, or we provide augmentation for internal IT departments and teams, and we fill the gaps that they might have in their capabilities or the solutions that they need to provide to the organization. And that pretty well covers us. We have a very specific focus on cybersecurity and compliance. We are what would be known in the industry as a managed security services provider. And so we primarily service highly regulated industries, real estate being one of those, anything that's financial services, professional services, hospitality, retail, food and bev, legal, healthcare, all of those types of industries that when compliance and security is not a luxury to them, but it's mandatory by regulation and by law. Those are the types of industries that we really have great products and solutions and capabilities for. And so that's primarily where our focus is.
And maybe I can't put the pieces together. I'm curious, where does the correlation of security and regulations come together?
Oh, yeah, very good. So, technology, when I got into this business, in 1998, so almost actually in September, we'll be celebrating our 24th year in business. So almost 24 years here. When I got into technology, cybersecurity was a very basic thing. It was basically, you have Norton antivirus and some means of a firewall on your network, and that pretty much covered your needs. As the adoption of technology and digital transformation has increased in recent decades throughout businesses, and now most of our businesses run on anywhere from 5 to 25 or 30 different pieces of technology. What we call the attack surface, or the amount of available technology that can be attacked by hackers, has increased significantly within any given business. That has driven federal and state governments to implement regulation around privacy, around data governance, around being good stewards of the data that we store as businesses. And as such, cybersecurity and the compliance of data governance has fallen within the wheelhouse of the IT team, right? Of the technology team. And so we saw this shift happening, in the industry 12 or 15 years ago. And so we leaned in pretty hard into our cybersecurity and compliance capabilities. And it depends on the organization. Sometimes they choose to have separate dedicated compliance teams. And I'm talking bigger organizations, right? Would have like a dedicated compliance team, a dedicated cyber team, a dedicated, internal IT team. But in that small to medium business or small to medium enterprise space, those are pretty much one team, right? That covers the entire gamut and needs to have the capabilities and proficiencies to do that. So having the understanding of the compliance regulations that are applicable to a given business, a given industry, and then having the capabilities to actually assess where gaps are in that businesses in their what we call a compliance and or cyber practices, which are actually two different things. Compliance and cybersecurity are not one and the same, and the strategies and the controls behind those can be very separate and different things. And so, as an internal, compliance cyber team, you need to be able to assess what's the target, where are we at now, what's the gap, how do we close that gap, right? And then how do we keep that gap closed on a regular basis, which most regulations require a yearly true up, right? You have to have a yearly vulnerability assessment done. You have to remediate any of your gaps, and then you have to put controls in place in order to keep those gaps closed. And that's kind of a yearly true up kind of process. Now, one of the things that a lot of business leaders don't really understand or know, they think that compliance or cybersecurity are solely technological considerations, that it's just software and hardware and maybe the resources of people and you're good, right? That is actually not accurate. And in fact, pretty much all compliance regulations out there today require very robust internal processes, procedures, practices, a focus on the people that touch the data, and then the controls, which is really the controls is what lands in the wheelhouse of the IT team, right? But those other pieces, those are cross-functional across an entire organization. And so they have to be considerations of the full business leadership unit and not just one solo team that's siloed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a protection from inside the business and then a protection from outside the business.
Absolutely.
Easiest way, I guess, the way I take it in. I mean, well, let's rewind a little bit and talk about a young Earl. I mean, a young Earl, was he into technology? Was he into looking out for other people? I mean, who was young Earl?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this career path is definitely given to my strengths and the person that I am. Growing up, and I had kind of an interesting journey that landed me here in this space, right? But growing up, I was always reasonably artistic. I sketched, I painted, and of course, video games were just becoming a thing. So and PCs were just becoming a thing. I played on Ataris and Super Nintendos and all that kind of stuff. From the time I was probably 10 or 12. And then through kind of high school. And in my neighborhood, there were quite a few emerging geeks per se. I remember some of my neighbors who were before the actual internet, before Al Gore invented the internet, let's say. Actually, a few of my neighbors had they had like 3,600 baud modems, way before even 56K modems, right? And they were dialing each other up and connecting and chatting over DOS command prompts with each other, just in our same neighborhood. And that kind of just piqued my interest as a kid and kind of blew my mind that, people could be sitting at a DOS based, PC that we were messing around with even pre-Windows, right? And we could connect with each other and chat and stuff like that. Anyways, so I thought I would have a career in architecture, which lent to my creative pursuits and my artistic capabilities. As I got into school for architecture, I got a job with what was supposed to be an architecture firm. It turned out to be a civil engineering firm. And so I made the decision to switch my major and go from architecture into civil engineering. And I went to school full time while working full time a day, doing that. And not long after I graduated with my degree, I kind of decided that that career probably wasn't for me. I got a little bored. It was kind of mundane sitting behind, the same computer all day, every day, crunching numbers and churning out drawings, which actually, taking a step back in the process, I had got into architecture because I could spend time on a drawing board, right? And because I was the default kind of geek, I actually ended up, for several employers that I was working for, I ended up doing their original digital transformation. So I was taking them from the drawing board and putting them into client server environments and doing automated CAD systems and, AutoCAD and StruCAD and different things. And I was doing this again while I'm in college, getting a degree. As I decided that maybe civil engineering wasn't the place for me, I already had this landing spot of technology. I had already been building, administering and managing networks, right? And so my brother and I started this business in 1998, essentially doing that, doing fractional or contract IT services for small and medium businesses. The business model has shifted and changed over recent years, of course, significantly, right? But that's really kind of where we got our start, with a couple of different pivots and things along the way.
So you're in school to become an architect. You're doing CAD drawing, so you're attaching yourself to more computer activities. When you're in college, do you switch basically paths, or do you end up graduating with a architectural degree?
I ended up graduating with a civil engineering degree. Yeah,
Okay.
so I switched. It was probably my, I guess it would have been equivalent to probably my second year of college. I actually, in high school, I dual matriculated. I went half day my junior and senior year. I went half day to high school, half day to college. And so I was a little further on in my journey, in my secondary education journey than a lot are, right? So it was probably in my second, year of college that I made that shift from architecture into civil engineering, and ultimately ended up with an engineering degree and not an architectural degree. Honestly, if I had gone the architecture route, I may have never landed where I'm at right now. I may have really enjoyed that because it gave me, an opportunity to lean into the creative side of myself. I do have a very engaged piece of my left brain and, my right brain as well. It's kind of an interesting combination. I very much have this engineer mind of, and taking care of people and businesses and solving problems and all that kind of stuff, right? But I also have this artistic side to me. Today my medium's music, which I started with at the age of 6, actually. And I'm actually in a local band here. I play bass in a local band, play some guitar, and in fact, we'll be jamming this evening. We jam tonight and Wednesday, and then have a private party we're playing for on Friday. But anyways, just I've kind of needed to have the ability to engage both sides of my brain, because I have this dichotomy that happens within me. And civil engineering just didn't really provide that to me. Being a founder in a business does provide that to me, even though it's very engineering oriented. Having the ability to be creative, having the ability to innovate, having the ability to problem solve within a business and have a vision and build, that very much lends to the creative side of me as an individual, right? So I think I've found a happy, kind of a happy marriage between my left and right brains, and I'm very I'm very grateful for that. I like where I'm at. I like the business I'm in. I like the people that I'm, that I have the ability to work with, to lead. Our clients are fantastic. The community is awesome. So I think that I've landed in a really great spot.
How long did it take from the idea of putting together Nexus IT consultants before it actually came to fruition?
Actually, that was quick. And the first iteration of the brand was actually PC Nirvana. In 2004, my brother and I made a decision to pivot 100% into business-to-business services and rebrand, and we sold off the original brand along with the consumer-based services that were part of that brand. So PC Nirvana went away. Yeah, it was fairly quick. My brother and I, probably within a couple of months of starting to talk about the ideas of e-commerce and then business-to-business services, which led into consumer services. It was pretty quick, man. Certainly it took us some time, like most founding teams, right? It took some significant time to iterate, product market fit, to test out theories, to fall flat on your face, on trying different products and services, and to ultimately find what really was working and where we could really grow the business, right? And that's what led to that rebrand in 2004, and we've kind of been. That's about the time that we leaned into what in our industry is known as managed IT services and managed security services, and where we've really operated in that space now for the past, what would that be, 16, 18 years, really.
Can you walk us through? I mean, there's probably a lot of questions we could dive into with the aspect of you and your brother starting a business together, but also too the decision-making process of you having this business and coming to the realization that you have to rebrand it and change the way you're currently doing things. I mean, what was that dynamic between you and your brother to actually come to that realization and actually know the faults of what you've kind of put together?
Yeah, hey Vinny, I think unfortunately the connection's a little bit lagging, slightly choppy, but I think that I understood there. I would say probably due to youth and inexperience at that phase in our journey, it was less intense than it probably would be now, honestly. And we were 6 years into that journey essentially. Yes, we had good revenue. We had a solvent organization. We had a small team, but it seems certainly the longer you're invested in something, and the older you get, the more you belabor on these types of decisions and the work that needs to go into making those types of shifts, right? For us at that point, it just seemed natural, really, where the business, where its most promising department, and services were at, and where we aligned best was in business to business services. The consumer services, there were other nuances of that were challenging. We were able to tell by this time, and granted, I'd only be 28 or 29 at this time, right? Still fairly young as an individual, certainly as a founder. But we were definitely able, even before we had really solid data, just to gather the historical data of experience, that the consumer services required a lot more effort for much less gain, right? And the business to business services were a far more promising sort of category of business, and again, where our growth was. And so it just made sense to shed ourselves of the consumer-based services that were kind of holding us down and holding us back, and certainly diverting energy and attention to those was not allowing us to lean into the growth side of our business and to really begin to move that along. And so, any decision like that, even though I was young at the time, you're thinking about the team members that are no longer going to be team members. You're thinking about the clients that are going to go away, the the revenue and starting, back over to some extent. But the reality is that it was the right choice, and most definitely, set us up for success, and is an important part of where we are and who we are now.
Where did the faith come in that you knew that? Because sometimes when you're stepping back, right, you just said it, you have to give away basically some employees, you have to basically give away some clients, and that can be deflating for some people because you've already got so far down the finish line, or down the road. I mean, so where was the faith coming through that this is okay, we're going to take a step back, but we're going to take multiple steps forward?
Yeah. That isn't that has been very much a part of my story and journey, not only at that point, but even for the past 18 years. Our business model has had pivots or micro pivots over the last 18 years, even though it's all been within business to business services. And so it's really about trusting your gut, trusting the data, trusting what you are perceiving and hearing from your market, your clients, and understanding and knowing, that as a business, you have to make adjustments to continue to survive and to thrive. And sometimes that means you've got to get rid of dead weight in business, right? Maybe it's not entirely dead weight, but it's weight that is keeping you from progressing. We made other massive shifts in 2012 when my brother and I actually separated the business, right? So we're no longer business partners. In 2018, I got completely out of the e-commerce side of our business because it wasn't profitable, right? But I gave up a significant amount of annual revenue, and went back to 100% business to business services in 2018, and have rebuilt, way past where we were at in revenue in the past 4 years, having eliminated that e-commerce division. So those are challenging decisions as a founder, as an entrepreneur. Those are things. And again, like I said, the older you get, the more wise you become, and the more you rely upon data, and the more you belabor these type of decisions. But for me, it's really about focusing in on where can we really drive value, where can we really help our clients in the market, where can we drive massive value for our team, and give them a great experience, a great fulfilling career with good career upward mobility. And then it's making those adjustments and committing to it, having the faith that your gut's correct, that the data's correct, and that you're going to have to lose some clients and some team members along the way. You're going to have to lose some revenue, and you're going to have to build that revenue back up, right? That is a reality of business. It's not just my business. It's, business in general. This is, for and even founders who, are your typical, what in the industry is kind of called churn and burners, churners and burners, that like every 3 to 5 years, they're establishing a new business and selling that business off. Even in that short life cycle, those businesses generally go through significant shifts or pivots within that business. And those leaders are making very similar type of decisions. I would say this actually has to become a talent of a good founder, a good entrepreneur. You need to recognize when your business model is no longer 100% applicable to the market and to your clients, and when you need to effect significant shifts within that business model, right? And you need to be adequately emotionally detached from the pieces of that business so that you can make those shifts. That's hard for me. I'm a person who leads with my heart, very, very much. I'm very dedicated to our people and our clients and the community and the market. And so, making those decisions on the fly can be very challenging, and there can be a lot of angst and anxiety involved with it. But I can tell you unequivocally, in my situation, having made those shifts has definitely led to a significant amount of new opportunity and new success within the business. That has been one of the keys for us. 5 out of the last 10 years having over 100% year-over-year growth within the business. It's because we've been willing to continually be abundance-minded, growth-minded, to look at the business, to look at the shifting needs of the market and our clients, and to adapt to that, right?
You probably kind of already answered the question, but I'm going to jump back into it. You talked about the idea of as you grow in the business and as you age in the business, right? You're more focused on data-driven decisions. And the longer you've been in the business and the more you've grown, right? You probably have more things that if you fail that are going to go belly up, like a family, assets, whatever it might be. So how do those different things play into the decision-making process as you're kind of going left instead of going right?
Yeah, most definitely. First and foremost, as a business grows, the stakes get higher, right? The amount of revenue and clients and team members and their livelihood that we're talking about increases. And I'll be candid, that pressure on your shoulders as an entrepreneur, as a founder, it's a lot to carry and to bear, right? I am grateful that, at this point in 2022, 24 years into our journey, gathering data is easier than it's ever been before. When I started this business in 98 or was making big, shifts in 2004, actually, having platforms that give you real-time dashboards of data that you need to understand within your business and data about the market and where it's telling you need to shift and grow, that was significantly more challenging. So I would say, first off, gathering the data so that you can have the right gut intuition is easier and better than it's ever been before. But second, yes, the stakes are much higher in my organization right now. So we are more methodical. We're a little slower about assessing where we need to go and the shifts and the pivots that we need to make to get there. Now, I do think it's very important, and even though we're 24 years into our journey, we kind of have this philosophy that we're still just a budding startup, right? Because we want to remain nimble. Some of the things that kill big businesses is the inability to be able to adapt to shifting market needs at a very quick pace, right? Large organisms they become very bureaucratic, a lot of red tape, and to retrain and shift offerings and products within a large organization can take a lot of time. And so we try to keep this mentality as part of the culture within the organization that we're still just a startup. We're very nimble. We try to have the ability to move quickly, to shift quickly as our clients are expressing. If we notice, a client, 3 different clients have expressed, a similar need, we've got to be on that. We've got to start figuring it out and understanding it. If it's not part of our current capabilities or offerings, we need to figure out how we can help those clients, and then therefore help the market that's beginning to shift that way. And you've got to make quick moves. So, for us, it's definitely about having this culture of innovation, having a culture of change is positive. Change is good. It brings about, better new opportunities and better capabilities within the organization. None of that's easy because, particularly in my business, my product is people, right? While we sell, IT solutions and products, at the end of the day, the thing that glues that all together is people. It's not a widget. It's not a piece of software. And, as human beings, we are change averse. That is just a normal state of humanity, right? Is to be change averse and not to not lean into change and growth mindsets and abundance mindsets. So those are, in fact, one of our core values is the practice of growth and abundance mindsets. And those are things that we teach and evangelize within the organizations. It's stuff that we highlight all the time. It's stuff that we help people understand. What's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset? And why is growth mindset important? Because we need to be able to adapt to the changing needs of the client and the market, of our clients in the market. And particularly when it comes to cyber and compliance, the pace at which innovation adapts for cyber criminals is extremely rapid. They're almost always ahead of the curve of those who are trying to defend internal IT teams and cybersecurity teams and solution providers and those who are creating new product and innovation to address those challenges. And on the compliance side, those government regulations, most of them are shifting to address that exact factor of, the cyber threat landscape evolves so quick that the compliance landscape has to adapt to keep up with it. And so our organization has to be very nimble and very capable of moving quick to address those changing needs.
You've kind of talked about a little bit about the change, about the growth and everything with regards to that. Where do you see basically your business growing to over the next 5 years? And then where do you see basically security issues coming about? I mean, where do you see the next stage of security issues that might be coming about?
Very good. So two-part question. First of all, for the past 24 years, most of our presence has been in the Northern Utah marketplace. We are currently executing on a very aggressive 5-year business plan that includes regional and national expansion. So we're building out the teams, the capabilities, the leadership. We're building out the ability to be able to take our offerings and move them into other regional markets, as well as a very active M&A sort of type of track and activity. So we're investing into our organic growth and the engines that are working for us right now on marketing and sales and operations, and we are investing into M&A activity as well. And that'll be very much part of our five-year journey. We, over a 5-year time period, we are planned out and intend to become a national presence. And we're gaining a lot of ground on that. Today we have a lot more presence and clients in regional markets than we had even 2 years ago. And so little by little, we are chipping away at that, and the pace of that is increasing for us. Let's see, where is cyber going? COVID affected a massive change in our industry. What happened there, Vinny, is that the traditional office, place or office space changed overnight. As an internal IT and cyber team, before COVID, let's just say we had a scenario of a business with a corporate office and 4 satellite offices, right? So 5 total offices. As the internal IT team, we had to harden and secure those 5 offices and make sure that all the practices and solutions and the technology that were used in those offices were secure and compliant. When COVID hit and suddenly that business, let's say that business had 2,000 employees, it sends everybody home overnight, and now instead of 5 offices has 2,000 offices, right? And many of those offices aren't even working on corporate issued equipment. They're working on, desktops and laptops and tablets that belong to the family. And so none of the traditional controls that we put in place as an IT team, as a cyber team, to secure that organization are present. And so suddenly, that attack surface that we try to keep minimized as a cyber team, that attack surface increased by hundreds of fold overnight. Cyber criminals knew it, and they started, they started attacking and leveraging that right out the gate very quickly. We saw the propagation, the growth of cyber attacks in those initial months of COVID increase exponentially. And we're not seeing that slow down right now. I think that, there's obviously a lot of debate happening right now of, are we going to settle on hybrid, or is everybody going to, end up work from home, or is everybody going to have to come back into the office, right? And I realize that for every business, that's their own decision. People are going to, kind of figure out what works for their culture and what works for their teams and their organization moving forward. But that one thing has shifted massively our industry. And so I see that continuing to play a very big role. I am seeing a lot of new innovation, a lot of new startups or existing organizations that are trying to address the cyber threat landscape at a more holistic sort of view, right? Instead of just knocking down one little piece of that. And right now, for example, a very good cyber or compliance practice is a multi-layered approach. We call it multi-layered because, again, in '98, your multi-layered approach was a firewall and antivirus, right? So you had basically two tools you were using. When you create a real cyber or compliance program now for a more mature organization, they're probably using on the order of 15 to 25 different solutions that are multi-layered in order to keep that organization secure and to keep them compliant. What I'm seeing in the space and where we are, doing a lot of work is bringing that all together in a more cohesive way in a singular type of offering, rather than having 25 different little tools from different companies that you're trying to integrate into each other to talk to each other, which, by the way, can increase your attack vectors and can make it more challenging to understand where your threats are coming from. What we would call in our industry unified threat management. In other words, taking disparate threat management tools and bringing them together in a singular type of platform. That is definitely, I think, where we're going to see significant innovation in the space. And I think we're going to find that in corporate America, in business organizations and government, public and private sector, I think we're going to find that much to a end user's dismay, as the cyber teams or the IT teams, we're going to have to become more stringent about the policies with which we use and the controls with which we administer an organization. It's important to make sure that you have good people experience, good end user experience. And that's something that we always work on as technology teams. But unfortunately, because of the scale of risk, sometimes you have to sacrifice that people experience in favor of security. And there's probably going to be more of that, in the coming years, I would guess.
That'd be an interesting balance of the freedom to work wherever you want to work, yet the protection of not being cyber attacked. Thank you, Earl, for being on the Road to Growth podcast today. If someone's listening and they're looking to get more information about your company, if they're looking to see if you guys have expanded in the areas that they're currently residing in, what's the best way of getting more information?
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, Vinny, for the invitation. This has been such a pleasure. Our website is nexusitc.net. We're quite active on LinkedIn, so look up Nexus IT Consultants or myself, Earl Foote, founder, CEO of Nexus IT on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook, and I think that pretty much covers our social channels at the moment, but those would be the best places to find us and engage with us.
And I think for everyone listening, I mean, I think there's definitely so many key takeaways, but the biggest one is the numbers don't lie. right? Whatever it is, the numbers don't lie. That saying, right? If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? I mean, the numbers don't lie with every decision making, and it's tough. I mean, when you own your own business, you're going off your emotions because you probably built that business off your emotions, off that passion. Yet when you're making those decisions, go off the data. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Earl, for being here. Everyone, please subscribe, please share, go in the show notes and go find Earl. Bye, everyone.